To be quite honest, I really just don't remember a whole lot because I was in shock.
The people who survived last year's devastating tornadoes in the Ozarks are telling their stories, some for the first time.
You know, it was just so overwhelming, like, this really just happened to us.
What they learned that could save you and your family during deadly storms. Plus, why researchers think they can predict where the next tornado will hit with sound. Should you take shelter during a coronavirus pandemic? What the experts say. And should you leave home during a warning to make it to a FEMA shelter? We put it to the test. Why it might be safer for you to shelter at home.
Here in the Ozarks, we can see it all, from lightning to hail, from tornadoes to flooding.
And we want to make sure that you and your family survive it all.
Whether you're in your home, your car, or on the lake, we want to make sure you know ways to protect yourself.
Stay tuned as we show you how to get the alerts you need before the storm hits.
This is how you can survive the storm.
You're watching KY3's Survive the Storm with Chief Meteorologist Ron Hurst, Meteorologist Brandon Beck, Meteorologist Abby Dyer, Weathercaster Robert Hahn, and Meteorologist Leah Hill.
April 30th of last year was one of the most active spring weather days we've had in some time. Nearly 24 tornadoes struck our area. People are still trying to recover. In an instant, Kent Rogers and his family were enjoying a spring day. Next thing you know, they were taking shelter in a closet. Tornadoes are a fact of life in the Ozarks, but how many are prepared to have our lives totally upended? Kent Rogers and his family were watching the severe weather threat. In an instant, they were taking shelter in a closet.
It was 8:30 approximately that night, and, you know, we were just hanging out, you know, shorts, T-shirt, no shoes. And that's how we climbed out. That's all we had.
Kent had a broken leg, his daughter Allie a gash on her face.
To be quite honest, I really just don't remember a whole lot because I was in shock. You know, it was just so overwhelming, like, this really just happened to us.
The recovery began almost immediately.
And while I was at the hospital, my wife actually called the insurance company right then and there.
They returned to the house, finding Kent's wallet and Renee's purse and a folder of important papers she had stuffed in a closet. Everything else was gone.
We had money in the bank, but when you have to go buy everything all at once, you know, that's a pretty good lick.
At first, they stayed with friends and family, but eventually moved into a hotel for more than 100 days.
Everybody always likes the continental breakfast at the motel, but after 70-some days, now them waffles and all that, I'm over the waffles.
It was a month before they received the first insurance check and decided to rebuild. Replacing the possessions took longer.
Take your cell phone, walk around your house, or a video camera, anything you have that can record what you have.
It is nearly a year after the tornado, and some people are only beginning to see their houses put back together. The day came when the Rogers family finally moved back into their new home.
It was relief. I mean, it was emotional. You know, we'd went a long ways in a short amount of time.
Several people in that spring storm were saved because of their quick action and taking shelter in exactly the right spot. Robert Hahn walks us through the destruction to show what you can do to survive the storm.
In any storm situation, whether it be high winds or tornadoes, always best to avoid exterior walls. This, right behind me, used to be a solid brick wall. As always, the best place to be in the event of a tornado is the basement. You can see here, we do have some damage and debris on the basement stairs, but the folks who live here survived this tornado with little injury. If you don't have a basement, we always tell you it's a good idea to get into an interior room or closet. For instance, this pantry, the walls very close together. The room stays a lot sturdier than a much larger room. While it is slightly damaged, definitely a survivable space. As you head into the storm shelter, make sure you're carrying the KY3 weather app with you. Another idea is to make sure if you've got them available, grab a bicycle helmet or other sporting helmet to help protect your head with as you do take shelter. You also want to make sure that you've got some hard-soled shoes on. If you do see any damage or you receive any damage, you'll want to be able to walk out through that damage in hard-soled shoes as opposed to socks or bare feet. Finally, bring in a whistle or other noise-making device if you do get trapped in your shelter. you can blow that whistle and attract rescuers to your location.
With the coronavirus raging through the Ozarks, is it safe for you to shelter a storm with other people? KY3's Kara Strickland asked the experts.
I don't think any of us have been expected to deal with tornadoes and a pandemic all at the same time.
The safety coordinator for Nixa Public Schools says their shelters will still be open during tornado watches and warnings because of the immediate threat weather brings to the public. But they are taking extra precautions.
Everybody should expect people to be asked to probably space out, sanitize their hands, and just kind of be prepared for maybe not what they're quite used to.
He says the district shelters can hold anything from a few hundred people to a couple of thousand.
During a tornado warning, people rush into the building, and so it is very difficult for us to take names as they come in. But as people leave, depending on the situation, we do have a procedure in place to collect names. With something like this, we will probably be doing that just to make sure that everybody that has been through, we can track them down if needed.
Greene County health officials say they have given FEMA shelters the go-ahead to open up as well.
So this is a tough situation because we've asked people to social distance, but we know that we have a potential for bad weather. We would rather that people take shelter in a storm and not be worried about that social distancing piece.
The director of the health department, Clay Goddard, says the same goes for taking shelter in your home.
If you shelter in place with others, let's not worry about the social distancing, such as an apartment facility or places where you're going to have more than 10. The primary danger there, severe weather, is much more acute than potential exposure to COVID-19.
So we always encourage you to have the First Alert Weather app. Let's say storms come through and the power goes out and you can't watch us on the air. Open up the weather app and then just scroll all the way to the bottom and you'll see an option to watch us live. Click that and you watch right on your phone.
Infrasound is just like what you hear. It's just at frequencies so low that the humans can't perceive it.
Using sound to predict tornadoes. Will it really work?
There's definitely supportive evidence that tornadoes specifically within the storm are producing the infrasound.
Plus, when a tornado hits, should you head to the closest FEMA shelter? We run a test. Should you stay or should you go? Coming up on Survive the Storm.
Tornadoes are one of the most terrifying parts of severe weather. Typically, when we see one form, the anatomy looks something like this. You have winds at the surface and then winds above your head that are a bit stronger. This creates a rotating column of air. In a thunderstorm, you also have updrafts. So those updrafts actually take that rotating column of air and spin it on its side vertically. That vertically spinning air mass, it eventually becomes the wall cloud, and the wall cloud is the area where the rotating column of air comes out of the cloud base. If it does not make contact with the ground, it's a funnel cloud. If it reaches the ground, then it's a tornado.
Well, the weather app is a fantastic tool, but you can customize that. If you want to put different overlays on the radar, you hit the map box, and then you'll see these three little dots down here on the right side. Click that, and all of a sudden you get all of your options for overlays. That includes precipitation, that includes travel weather, wind speed, and you can even turn on storm tracks and lightning to make sure you get the latest updates. Then you can drag some of those to the top for favorites so you can access them quickly.
It's been almost 2 years since the duck boat tragedy on Table Rock Lake. In the wake of that devastating event, Abby Dyer shows us a new effort to improve emergency resources around the lake.
The grant came forward post the Ride the Ducks incident, and just an opportunity for a local business that came forward and said, we'd like to help.
A private donor gave $32,000 to provide 6 of these full functioning weather stations that will be placed at different locations all around Table Rock Lake. The funding also will provide a boat, equipment, and training for a water rescue initiative for the fire department.
We believe it can be educational for our schools. We believe it can be live data for our businesses and for emergency management purposes as well.
I've worked at Kingsford Marine since I was 14, so I grew up on the water. I don't risk it at all.
JT Krug is also a teacher at Blue Eye School, one of the locations where a new weather station will be placed.
Students can use their phone to kind of look at the data. We can apply scientific methods, problem solving, predicting based on graphs and weather trends.
The 6 new stations will be at schools in Blue Eye, Shell Knob, Reed Spring, State Park Marina, Chateau on the Lake, and Fire Station 3 in Branson.
That will give us a view of live weather as it's happening on the west side of the lake. And so guess who gets to use that? Day to day, citizens can get on this through the Davis Weather app, and so it's open to the public.
I think it's awesome that a private donor would want to help out our community.
This was a big thank you from a local business, and I think our response back is, as always, thanks to our community for their support.
Those weather stations are now up and operational. Here's how you can find out that data yourself. Go to our website, click on the menu, go down to Survive the Storm, and you'll find them right here on our website.
Students at Missouri State University are learning what to do after a tornado hits. Robert Hahn takes us inside their mock training.
Tornadoes in the Ozarks are an annual occurrence, and it's not a matter of if, but when one strikes here in Springfield. Rather than wait for that to happen, some Missouri State University students are studying here. A scale model they use to learn how to become emergency managers and responders following a major tornado. The class was told of the severe risk, something that didn't faze Mitchell Easter.
Confirmed that there are multiple casualties.
Easter is a graduate student at Missouri State going for his master's in public administration. But on this night, he was incident commander coordinating with his team on a tornado response in Springfield.
I would get with weather and ask them, make sure that there's not another message that we should be sending out.
It's a scenario Larry Woods knows how important it is to prepare for.
They're in the process now trying to get their hands around the situation.
Woods is in charge of emergency management in Greene County.
They're starting to set up their command elements now, trying to establish perimeters, set up, get their resources into the scene.
Those resources include police, fire, and ambulance.
On Adams and Commerce, we'll do a collection point there.
Dispatching them where they can try and help.
Have we gotten the kids out yet?
No, we're still working on it.
The class also learned how to handle the public in a disaster as well as the media.
We have search and rescue teams that are going to that location, so we want to make sure that they stay out of the way and let us do our jobs.
It's all part of Dr. David Johnson's response training class. He stressed teamwork in this kind of situation.
Nobody's going to be able to pull this kind of stuff off without having some kind of structure.
The scale model they're using is being built by the students in the class, and that class gets bigger every year as more students are added.
Hail can be as small as a pea or as large as a baseball. And as meteorologist Leah Hill explains, the larger the size, the more damage to your home, your car, and your wallet.
Mike Bowman has only been living in Springfield for 2 years and already has gotten his roof repaired.
You hear a lot of people get hail damage, and we've actually had it too.
He was lucky. Damages only cost him several $100s when quarter-size hail fell, or baseball-size hail.
So single-family homes between the, I don't know, let's say 1,500 square feet to 1,800 square feet, that would range from $6,000 to $7,500.
Newer roofs offer more protection from hail. The shingles are more flexible and can bend on impact. Older roofs see the worst damages.
When it comes to your car, hail smaller than a quarter will put some dents in it. But when we get those ping pong ball sizes, you're talking serious cracks.
If the windshield's cracked, it won't pass inspection anyway.
It will cost around $300 to repair a windshield. To repair the hood, on the low end, you're looking at paying $1,500. On a high end,
Well, we have had some that the hail was severe enough that did total them.
Insurance does cover a lot of these costs, but you're looking at a deductible of $500 for your car and $1,500 for your home. In Springfield, meteorologist Leah Hill.
It's important that you have push alerts enabled on your phone for our First Alert weather app. So once you open that up, the top 3 bars will click that and then go to the settings icon. Go to weather notification types and you can select which alerts you want turned on.
Why researchers think they can predict where the next tornado will hit with sound.
Flooding is the #1 reason for weather-related deaths. Just 1 foot of water is enough to lift your car, and 2 feet of rushing water is enough to lift it up and sweep it away in a flash flood. Remember never to attempt to cross flood waters. Turn around, don't drown.
Because of coronavirus, most businesses are shut down, and as we saw in Jonesboro, that's actually not a bad thing. It wound up saving lives. But there are still places that are open, like Target and Lowe's, who are essential businesses. If you are out, Shopping for essential items during a tornado watch or warning, take shelter in the store. Follow the directions of the store managers. Move to their designated tornado shelter and make sure you cover your head. Don't try to leave the store, and certainly don't try to drive back home.
It's not just enough to know the high temperature of the day. Sometimes you need a more detailed forecast. On our KY3 First Alert weather app, we have an hour-by-hour forecast. You'll be able to see when the temperatures will warm, or also when rain moves into the area and when that rain will clear out, so that you can better plan for your day.
When talking about severe weather, tornadoes typically get most of the headlines, but flooding is more costly, more dangerous, and more deadly. Last year, National Weather Service meteorologist Doug Kramer began the tedious project of mapping each low-water crossing and each one's drainage area in hopes of creating an early warning system.
And we're already starting to see some success with this. We have an idea, a much better understanding of what flood points on our Missouri state highways are more sensitive than other flood points. So we're already starting to understand that much better, and that's allowing us to issue more accurate flood warnings.
This year, he's enlisted the help of Missouri State University Innovations Lab.
This is a really unique opportunity for us to bring together at the Innovation Lab, to bring together multiple disciplines at the school with outside organizations like the National Weather Service, and work together to create something that hasn't been done before.
The team thinks they can build a virtual reality scenario that can be applied to other crossings, helping officials barricade roads before they flood and ultimately saving lives.
Forecasting severe weather is a lot like baking a cake. It takes a lot of ingredients to make one. However, if one ingredient isn't there, or the balance of all of the ingredients is off, your dessert might not quite come out looking like a cake. The same goes for severe weather. If you don't have the right quantities at the right time, you're not going to get a severe storm. Deciding when to put general thunderstorms into the forecast versus severe weather can be a really delicate balance. Severe weather requires a trigger, such as a cold front, fuel, moisture to tap into, instability to keep things churned up and unstable in the atmosphere, and wind shear, which is the turning of winds with height. If any of these ingredients are missing, or if there's too much of one, your severe thunderstorm cake could be a flop.
The sound of a tornado has been described as a loud, roaring sound, even sometimes described as a freight train or a jet engine. Right now, tornado research is being done using sound that we can't even hear. That imperceptible sound is known as infrasound.
Infrasound is just like what you hear. It's just at frequencies so low that the humans can't perceive it.
Dr. Brian Elbing teaches mechanical and aerospace engineering at Oklahoma State University. He uses special equipment to capture those frequencies, which may detect the formation of tornadoes.
It's just like a canister with soaker hoses coming out of it.
While it's still being studied, the research is showing some promise to help predicting where a tornado might form.
There's definitely supportive evidence that tornadoes specifically within the storm are producing the infrasound. In May of 2017, there were supercells all around us. We weren't really picking up any signal until this one tornado formed just to the south of us.
Dr. Elbing's research team detected that tornado 8 minutes before it even formed. The goal is to get similar results from more storms to one day warn people about tornadoes well in advance.
Stay up to date with the latest weather with the KY3 weather app. On the very top is a series of videos that detail more information on weather, such as lake levels, pollen count, detailed hour-by-hour forecasts for your specific county, along with weather and sometimes severe weather information. In fact, we can locate your phone anywhere in the Ozarks, as small as, say, Hammonds Field. So make sure you keep the KY3 weather app handy with you all the time, and make sure you allow it to follow you around the Ozarks.
When the storm is about to hit, should you stay or drive to a shelter? We put it to the test. Next on Survive the Storm.
We just told you how dangerous and damaging hail can be, but how does it actually form? Well, it happens in a really strong thunderstorm when up here the temperatures are below freezing. In a strong thunderstorm, the updrafts, they can be very powerful, and they take all of these water droplets and bring them up above the freezing level in the cloud. The hailstone then grows in size as it's kicked back up from these strong updrafts below the freezing level, gets coated in another layer of water, and the hailstone grows in size. Eventually, that hailstone is going to become strong enough that gravity takes over and it falls down. But the stronger the updraft, the stronger the hailstone. Hail with 1 inch in diameter size is considered severe.
You know, in today's hurry-up society, most of us don't know our neighbors, but in an apartment complex during a tornado warning, that's probably not a good idea. Spend some time meeting your neighbors. Some apartment complexes actually have designated storm shelters, and that's where you should go first. If not, I hope you know the neighbors on the first floor. The idea here is to get from the upper floors of the apartment down to the lowest floors and then take shelter as far as you can within the building. Normally, that's in the bathroom. Get in there, get in the tub, and close the door. Remember to grab some pillows and blankets to cover your head.
When you hear thunder, you are close enough to that storm to be struck by lightning. If you see a lightning strike, start counting. And if you get to 5 seconds, you can estimate that that storm is about a mile away from you. But keep in mind that thunder moves at different speeds in different temperatures. So in the cooler months, it actually moves a little bit slower. In the hot summer months or in the springtime, it can move a little bit faster.
90% of tornadoes across the United States are rated as weak, EF0 or EF1. But the larger tornadoes, though more rare, cause more destruction and kill more people. Rightly so, it's those tornadoes that make us think long and hard about a safe place to be. These maps from UStornadoes.com show how relatively rare the strong or violent tornadoes are. But it's the rare ones that usually move slower, last longer, cause extreme destruction, and kill more people. Rightly, it's those twisters that inspire the most fear and make us think about a really safe place to be. For decades, FEMA has offered federal money to cities, towns, and schools to help build community storm shelters. And current standards are for those buildings to withstand winds of 250 miles an hour or the top end of EF5 strength. But what about getting to one when a tornado is on the way? Greene County Emergency Manager Larry Woods offers this caution.
If you can't get there within 5 minutes, then it's best to just stay where you're at and shelter in place.
That's about a 1 mile distance. So I decided to test it. I started about 7/10 of a mile from a shelter. It was almost 5 p.m. on a weekday. I got stopped at a couple of lights, had moderate traffic, and had to weave through a couple of neighborhoods to get where I was going. It took me just over 5 minutes to get to the parking lot. Then I had to find out if the door was open. It didn't account for heavy traffic. What about storminess? If it's already raining, hailing, the wind's blowing, I don't want to be caught out in it. The bottom line is, emergency directors say that it's usually safer to shelter where you are than drive to somewhere else.
Anytime you want to take a look ahead in the weather, click on the Daily button on your First Alert Weather app, and it will give you a heads up on temperatures, precipitation, and a forecast for the next 10 days. Keep an eye on any red days. Those are our First Alert days where more impactful weather is possible.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Stay with KY3 for any special coverage of storms as they hit your area.
Online, on the app, on air, and on Alexa.
We're the first to warn you about weather headed our way.
This is how we first alert to help you survive the storm.